So are electric vehicles the wave of the future? Electric vehicles are penetrating world markets. Last year, about 14% of new light vehicles sold were electric, plug-in electric vehicles. Only a little under 7% in the US, but about 20 or 30% in Europe and China. And at the end of last year, there were about 27 million electric vehicles on the road out of 1.5 billion light vehicles, about 2%. Electrics have certain advantages. You can charge at home, that's the best. Very convenient and often less expensive if you charge at home. Quieter ride, simpler engines, although there are some issues with tires that I'll talk about. But the disadvantages for electrics are starting to pile up. And one of those is driving range and weight. In the top right here, we have a Honda Civic little model. Can go 360 miles on 77.5 pounds of fuel in a 12.4 gallon gas tank. If you say that I'll take that 77.5 pounds and put it into a battery over here, a Chevy Volt, you can go 21 miles. You have to increase the size of that battery by a factor of 17 to be able to go 360 miles again. And so it takes about 9 pounds of battery for 1 pound of gasoline to go the same distance. And so this means EVs are going to be about 50% heavier than traditional gasoline or diesel cars. And how about those EV pickups? Wow, are they heavy? This up here is a Ford F-150 gasoline vehicle, 4,677 pounds. But look at these three EVs on the bottom. Ford Lightning EV, 6,500 pounds, R1T Rivian, 7,100 pounds, and the Chevy Silverado, 8,500 pounds. If Quint were here from Jaws, he'd say 4 tons of them. You got a pickup truck that weighs 4 tons, folks. A vehicle price continues to be a disadvantage for electrics. Now, we've had a price war going on with EVs, so this is closed. But last year, this was about 50%. Now there's about a 22% premium to go from a Toyota Corolla to a Chevy Bolt. Operating costs, EVs are still less at a home charger, but more expensive at public chargers, except in some cases in Europe. Europe's electricity has gone up 2 or 3 times, while petrol has gone up about 40%. And so now in the UK, it's more expensive to charge an EV than to use a petrol car. Electric vehicles are very metals intensive, and these go into the battery, of course. The International Energy Agency has estimated that EVs use 6 times the special metals of a gasoline or diesel car. And those include graphite, copper, nickel, manganese, cobalt, and lithium. To produce a 1,000-pound EV car battery, you have to move 500,000 pounds of earth in a mine, typically to get those metals. And so global output of lithium, cobalt, nickel, copper is going to have to increase by a factor of 5 or 10 if EVs take over the world market. So this is going to keep a price gap. All the cost of these metals is going to make EVs and EV batteries more expensive than gasoline cars for many years to come. Now we all think, wow, I drive an EV and it's really environmentally responsible, right? Isn't that what you hear every day? Reduces those greenhouse gas emissions. But people in the US don't see the social and environmental damage of electric vehicle batteries. Most of the metals come from developing nations. Some from Australia, some from China as well. And then the biggest refiner of these metals is China. So what you have, for example, in the case of cobalt, the Democratic Republic of Cobalt is the biggest producer, Democratic Republic of Congo is the biggest producer of cobalt. And this image is from the DRC. They use forced labor and child labor to mine cobalt ore. And then that ore is shipped to China where it is transformed into cobalt metal, and they pollute vast areas of the nation. This is a picture of Rare Earth Lake. It's a place in China where, as far as you can see in every direction, the land has been polluted by metal tailings. And then that cobalt goes into your battery, it comes to the US so you can drive your Tesla. Wow, I'm really environmentally friendly, right? Doesn't take into account all the social and environmental damage that's going on to get that vehicle to the US. Big EV disadvantage is cold weather. You lose about 20% of your driving range at 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Might be great down in the south, but up north, not so good. I met someone at a conference a year ago, can't remember where, but his wife had a Tesla. They lived in Cleveland, and the temperatures there in the winter got down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And they didn't have a heated garage. Their Tesla wouldn't charge. It just would not charge at 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And they called Tesla, and Tesla says, yeah, it's kind of the way it is. So I have a heated garage in Chicago, but I don't want to run it. I wouldn't want to heat it all winter. That'd be very expensive just so I could charge my car. Oh, in Canada, considering 100% zero emissions vehicle mandate by 2035. So if you don't have a heated garage in Canada, you won't be able to charge your car from December through February. I keep hitting the buttons here. Let's see, okay. Another big thing that's emerged is the cost of insurance. In the United Kingdom now, we have many companies that are saying, well, we're not going to insure your electric vehicle. And so there's stories out now about people that have called around to 10 different insurers, and they finally get it insured for £5,000 for a year for their EV, very expensive. In the US, insurance costs are about 72% higher. And the problem here is repairs and collisions. Hertz has announced that repairs cost twice as much for an EV. Hertz, by the way, is putting in an order for 100,000 electric vehicles from Tesla. They're now finding that it costs them twice as much to maintain those or repair them if there are collisions. And the problem is if you have a minor collision like this with this Hyundai and you damage the battery slightly, you got to replace the whole battery. There's no way to repair it, and it could become a fire hazard. So another problem emerging. Very poor business case for chargers. So I'll give you a comparison. If you have a gas pump and you want to put one in, it costs you about $20,000, and you can serve a customer in about 6 minutes. If you want to put in a 50 kilowatt high-speed DC charger, it costs $100,000, you can serve a customer in 30 minutes. So the gas pump has can serve 5 times the customer for 1/5 of the capital cost. That means that gasoline owners aren't really too interested in putting in EV chargers. So what I predict is going to happen is that the utilities are going to take over this charger business. I keep hitting the buttons here. And they're going to charge ratepayers, and they're also going to get big subsidies from the government to maintain all these chargers. Because most people want to charge at home, not at a public charger. And so there's not a real good business case for these chargers.